40 years old, and when I look back on the books I read from ages 12 to 21, I can't even begin to list them. Not just the books, but the memories as well. I went through my daughter's bookshelves looking at many of the books she's inherited from me, and I knew as soon as I saw this one that it was the one to talk about. As soon as my finger touched the spine and I read the title, tears began to well up in my eyes. Just holding the book in my hands at this moment, I admit, it's as if old Dan and little Anne are dying all over again, and I am standing beside Billy digging their graves. Where the Red Ferns Grow by Wilson Rawls is the first book I remember openly sobbing over, and a book which, though I haven't read it since, is 25 years later eliciting a powerful emotional response. I read the book when I was 12 or 13. I resisted reading it for several years after many of my friends because the idea of raccoon hunting horrified and just plain grossed me out. Frankly, it still does. But this isn't the emotion that's important. Perhaps the timing of my reading of it was and continues to be part of the intensity of my response. I read the book soon after my family moved to a new town, and I was feeling fairly friendless. Not long after we moved, and just weeks before I read this, my grandfather passed away. I know that this is the first book that drew from me an emotion so strong that my chest literally hurt. I might have said before reading it that books weren't reality. Maybe I wouldn't have said it this way, but my opinion would have been that I could remove myself from the book any time I wanted to. This book taught me differently. This story was real to me, was true to me. And whether or not other books may have elicited emotion in me, may have made me sad or laugh, the friendships in this book and the loss at the end of it touched me in such a physical way that I've never forgotten it. I wasn't that surprised when I opened the end of the book and saw the closing lines were very much what I remembered. When Billy says, "With a heavy heart I turned and walked away," I knew that as long as I lived, I'd never forget those two little graves and the sacred fern. I know that I share his sentiments. I knew it when I first read the book, and more than 25 years later, I still know it. There are characters and there are stories which will always be part of you, which change you. Where the Red Fern Grows did that for me. I was as changed as that fictional boy by those fictional dogs. The power of the written word was something I was beginning to honestly experience. I will never forget those two little graves, nor the friendship of dogs who never existed in the real world, but nevertheless were as true and real to me as if they had.